welcome you to another episode of Get Outdoors with Hook Outdoors. Today's date is December 4th, 2020 here at Cave Run Lake. This show is being recorded at our Hook Outdoors retail location located here in the northern end of the Daniel Boone National Forest. Well, we'll get right to it, folks. Cave Run Lake sits at 724.7 feet of elevation, which is almost to the 724 feet winter pool. The outflow right now is 1,497 cubic feet a second, which I suspect it will probably maintain until the 15th, which is the estimated target date to get it to winter pool. Temps right now are running in the upper 40s, and you have about 5 foot of clarity in the lake overall. Haven't had a whole lot of rain, had some showers and such along, but nothing big, no big flooding rains or anything like that. We'll get right after the fish here. Crappie are deep right now, 15 foot plus. You can find them on brush piles, drops, and channel intersections. Cold weather crappie, they're going to tend to bunch up more, so where you catch one or two, you'll probably catch several if they're on the bite. The catfish, if you will check out our latest post on our Hook Outdoors Facebook page, you will see a good friend of the store, Glenn, with the 50-inch catfish that he caught in the spillway Friday after Thanksgiving. He caught that, and he caught another 40-plus catfish and a 42-inch muskie all the same day, and he was just catching them on live shad that he was catching there in the spillway and just sticking them on a hook and going right at it. As far as anything else they're biting on, seems to be goldfish. We still have those here at the shop, and they're still biting on those. But as far as the catfish bite goes here, I think the spillway is the deal for now. I guess maybe it's the moving water or what have you. The muskie fishing has been really good here of late. They had a weekend tournament here at one of the local businesses. They call it their Turkey Bowl, and there were several fish caught, and even a couple of fish that were over 50 inches long. The muskies seem to be biting on glide baits, suckers, dying dogs, big blade spinners, pretty much the same deal it's been all fall. And I think that bite's going to keep up. I think we're in a pretty good wintertime pattern here on everything. Like I said, we've had some rain yesterday and today, but I believe that's clearing up, and it looks like it's going to be pretty nice through next week, and temperatures are going to be seasonably cool, but there's a warming trend coming, and we're looking for some 50-degree temps by next Thursday or Friday here, at least according to the local weather people. And the lake should be in pretty good shape. They'll be about down to winter pool, so I think the fishing's going to get pretty good here as long as we don't have any big fluctuations in the weather or the water. Well, now Evan's going to come up, and he's going to talk about what the bass are doing and what to look for here this time of year. And then after that, as far as our tip or subject for the week, we're going to talk about fish care in your live well if you're fishing a tournament and whatnot, and just being able to make sure you got good, healthy fish to go to the weigh-in. So, Evan, let's hear what you got today.
So there haven't been many bass fishermen out on Cave Run Lake, but the bass, they're still there to be caught. There's a little bit tougher this time of year on Cave Run. The past week or so that I've fished, fish have been deep brush piles, anywhere from the 15 to 20 foot range, and they've also been found on, deeper chunk rock walls, the 45-degree angle banks. Going back to your baits on those brush piles, your best baits are going to be your, traditional brush pile baits, a jig, a shaky head, maybe a drop shot, something like that. And then when you get over to the rock walls and the chunk rock and things like that, you're going to throw your traditional, your Spro rock crawler, your Strike King, your flat side crankbaits, things like that. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what the bass are doing on Cave Run. So kind of getting into, it's a really broad topic here, fish care. Yeah. But it's also extremely important, in a tournament, fishing a tournament, your goal is to have, a 5 bass tournament limit, but they've all got to be alive when you get back. You're fishing from 7 to 3, So, if you catch a fish after takeoff, at 7:15 in the morning, you've got to be able to keep that fish alive until, 3 or 3:30 when you weigh it in. So, there's several different factors that go into keeping them fish alive. I use a culling system, and it's a Cal Coast Clip and Cull 2.0 culling system that really helps me a lot in the water, organizing my fish in the box and things like that. And that really makes it easier on me, because when you have a 5 bass limit in there, and it keeps. So when you have a limit and you catch a bigger one than your smallest fish in the box, you want to cull that fish out, and it just makes it a lot easier on me as a tournament fisherman to just grab a cull tag out, and then instead of having to fish around in there for it.
Have me one of those here, Evan. Let me see what you got there.
But it makes it a lot easier on me, instead of having to fish around and use my hands to find each individual fish. If I clip a cull tag on there on the fish, and I remember, well, all of my cull tags, they're numbered from 1 through 5, and say I know that my smallest fish is on cull tag number 3. I can just pick up cull tag number 3, switch it out, and there you go. And then I just keep on going from there. And then after I cull that fish, say I know that my smallest fish is on cull tag number 5. If I catch another bigger one, I can just pick up cull tag number 5, switch it out, and it's easy like that.
Now, this culling system you have here, basically what it is, it's just a piece of cord or tubing or what have you. It's got a foam float at one end. The other end has your hookup system, which basically this one here, it's a self-locking deal, but then it also has a manual release once you're ready to either cull the fish or take it out of the box and put it in a weigh-in bag. But the one thing I was noticing here, down here on the actual hookup part, it's weighted on one end. What's the purpose of that deal there?
That's something that I added. What I done was I just took a piece of string, and I think this is an ounce or an ounce and a half, just a normal old egg sinker, and I just tied it up there with a small piece of string. And what that does is when I put that fish, when I put the cull tag on the fish, I'll have that weight pulling down on its, not pulling down on its jaw, but just to keep that fish setting upright in the live well,
right,
instead of turning belly up, and then that will.
So you try to hook up. So when you hook them on that lower jaw, you try to kind of, I guess, center it up the best you can, and that way it'll keep them more head down, if you will.
Yeah.
And instead of if they're having a tendency to maybe start turning up on their sides or turning up on their backs or whatever, this could keep that fish alive that much longer, just because it's keeping that fish in an upright position, if you will.
And getting more into the fish care end of it with this Cal Coast Clip and Cull system. It's a non-puncture cull tag.
Sure, yeah.
So a lot of guys, especially your older guys, they've been fishing tournaments since the 1980s and all that stuff, and they've had the same set of cull tags since they started tournament fishing, because if it works. Most of the time back when they first started, their cull tag system was a puncture tag.
Sure, yeah.
And what it done was it was just a wire, and it punctured through the fish's skin on its mouth, and then they folded it back together, and that kept the fish on the cull tag. But now I'm not really sure when Cal Coast came out with this system, but it's just a clip. All it does is it wraps around the fish's jaw. It does absolutely no harm to the fish, and it's a whole lot safer than using just a punctured cull tag.
Sure.
And what I've noticed is, like, when I go and fish these bigger high school tournaments, especially through major organizations like Bass and FLW, in their rules they actually enforce having these non-puncture cull tags.
Oh yeah.
Just to enforce proper fish care and keeping the fish safe.
And going back to that, if you look at pictures of like the old Bassmaster Classics and just old tourney pictures from, well, not even that old, but just in the 70s and 80s, they had chain stringers and that kind of thing. And, fish care wasn't the issue that it is now, with catch and release and everything like that. And I know a lot of the people that fish around here, and a lot of people that I talk to, and especially like where we're at here at Cave Run, with it being a musky lake, the live release is just a really important deal. And I think, the future of the fishery depends on it, because if you kill those fish, then you're just never going to catch them again.
Mm-hmm. And something I've noticed, just fishing here at Cave Run and lakes around like Cumberland and things like that, sometimes I'll catch fish and they'll have a big opening in the bottom of their jaw,
right?
And big enough that you can stick your finger through it on
Sure.
the bottom of their jaw.
Yeah.
And what that's from is those punctured cold tags.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a system like Cal Coast's got here with the non-puncture,
Mm-hmm.
they just clip right on it, no harm done, easy
Yeah.
to take off, and it does
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to the fish. And then
Yeah.
if you do add on the egg sinker to it, or you can add a fin clip, and it's basically the same thing. All it is, it's almost like it's basically just a clip like you put on like a bag of chips,
Mm-hmm.
and but it has a weight on there. It has a lead weight, and anywhere from an ounce, somewhere around that. Anything
Right.
to keep that fish, from going belly up, just to keep that fish down and just keep it safe in the live well all day.
Right. Now, what's the next thing as far as fish care goes? Once you get them in the live well, you get your cold tag on them. In cold weather, the springtime, it's not such an issue as long as you've got a good aerator and you keep the water refreshed and everything. But as you get on into the hotter times of the year, the condition of that water in that live well is a big deal as far as bringing good, healthy fish to the weigh-in.
So a big thing for me that I started using, 3 or 4 years ago, really when I first started fishing tournaments regularly, is I got TH Marine G-Juice.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, it's just a live well additive. Here it says on the back of I brought in a container up today. It says it detoxifies nitrites, relieves stress, promotes healing, replaces slime coating,
Mm-hmm.
and adds essential electrolytes.
Sure.
And it's basically it's just a blue juice made by TH Marine G-Juice, and it's really good for the fish, especially in those hotter summer tournaments. When you get into May, June, July, like when the water's, sometimes the water here at Cave Run especially
Right.
gets up, 88, 90 degrees sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
And then when you add that G-Juice, it does everything it can to help them keep them fish alive.
It's kind of like fish Gatorade.
Basically is what it is. Yeah, but it's I can definitively say I've never had a fish die on me.
Sure.
While having TH Marine G-Juice
Right.
in live well. So
Right.
it does so much for them. It's a really good thing. And in the bottle they send here, they have I'm trying to remember. I think this is a 16-ounce bottle, but what you do is it has this squeeze. We're kind of a really cool system. You just squeeze it, and it puts a certain amount in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a half ounce and an ounce
Right.
marking there. I usually put as much as I can in the live well, especially if I have a limit in the tournament.
Right.
I'll put the whole ounce or sometimes more if it's hotter in there. But it's been a really big help to me. I've traveled all across the country fishing, from Wisconsin down to Cumberland, things like that, fishing tournaments, and I've never had a fish die on me in a live well with that G-Juice.
Do you find nowadays that bringing dead fish to the weigh-in, I mean, nobody wants to do that just for simple reason you lose that fish and, they penalize you and all that kind of thing. But just, I guess, from a social standpoint, do people just do fishermen kind of frown on that more than they used to, say, 20 years ago?
Tournament fishermen, they definitely do not like the sight of seeing a dead bass.
Sure.
It's just,
Yeah.
even me, that just makes my teeth itch when I see a dead bass.
Yeah.
But there's some things you just can't control. You can't
No, I mean, you hook them deep and that kind of thing, and there's just every hookup and every situation is not perfect, but I just think at least from what I see, bringing dead fish or having a big fish kill is just not a good look.
Yeah, and especially now with there's so many different methods of keeping your fish safe in
Right.
the live well, from G-juice to non-puncture cold tags,
Yeah.
fin clips, and
even
things like
these
that.
even these custom made live wells. I mean, you can get all these high end live well deals that oxygenate the water
Yep.
and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, really and truly, you're not putting them in a bucket anymore. So I mean, it's you can keep these fish alive and preserve them to catch them again.
Yeah, when you're in a bass boat, fishing a tournament, you have, your recirculation pumps and all that stuff.
Sure.
You got to have, you pretty much got to have them going all day. Most boats, they have an automatic switch, and you can turn it on. And every so often, every maybe 10 minutes, it'll flip on and recirculate the water for a little bit. And, I actually know guys that's talked about this before. They don't turn the recirculation pumps on, but what they do is they pump fresh water in all day long. They just pump it in fresh water all day long, which when you do that, you can't use G-juice or something like that.
Right, sure.
But say you don't have any G-juice or anything like that, you can, turn your live well pump on, and it'll just be pumping fresh water all day long. And, that's good for the fish also. Any measure that you can take to keep them fish alive, that you need to take it.
Well, then what's the next step? You've got your fish in the box, you've got them cold, you got your tags in them, you got your G-juice in your water, everybody's doing well. Now you're back at the ramp, you're trailered up, and you're getting ready to go to the weigh-in. So now what are we doing?
You got your weigh-in bag here. I brought mine from the house. It's a Prime 1 camo, big old weigh-in bag. And, it's the same deal. You pump the water out of your live well into your weigh-in bag. So if you're using, if you have G-juice in your water in the live well, you're going to be pumping that good-looking blue water into your weigh-in bag.
Sure.
And, the fish are in the bag for a minimal amount of time. Most of the time, at most 5 minutes. And especially bigger tournaments, they're not even in there that long. You bring your bag up, and what you do is you put a mesh bag inside of your main bag, and then you just take that mesh bag with your fish in it out, and they have massive containers of water.
Yeah, they have big tanks, and even if you're standing in line, you're holding your fish down in the aerated tank, and they stay fresh and all like that.
So there's no worry, of killing a fish once you get it out of the boat and everything. I think that's kind of a common misconception that people have when they see tournaments and things like that, because they see all these pictures of people holding big bass up on a stage and something like that, and they think, well, them fish are just going to die because they're out of water, they're up on a stage. But no, you've got, them fish are out of the water when you go up on the weigh-in stage for at most 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And once they get out of your weigh-in bag from the beginning, and you take them across the stage, as soon as you get off the stage, those fish go right back in a big tournament, they'll go into a release boat or a release tank, anything like that. Some people have trucks, and some people have boats that have just massive, live well systems on them, and they put the fish in there, and it's all aerated and have G-juice or anything, some form of live well additive in it, and that keeps them fish really healthy.
And you just think of it from a economic standpoint. These tournaments, they spend a lot of money FLW and Elite Series and all these, they put a lot of effort to put these big tournaments on, and they pay these big prizes and all that sort of thing. And if you catch, say, like you're some famous fisherman like Gerald Swindle or somebody like that, and you've caught a 7-pounder that's just won you a $200,000 check, you're going to do everything you can to keep that fish alive. I mean, that dead fish isn't going to do you any good. And from the bigger tournament organization, you want all the live fish that you can get, because it makes for a better fishery. And from a social aspect, it's a good optic if these people catch these fish and they all get turned back alive and everything's looking good and all that sort of thing.
I know for sure that FLW, when you're watching a live weigh-in or watching a TV show or something like that, they have on the live video, or you can go to their website and you can actually look at their fish release statistics, and they have just an extremely good percentage of fish that are put back alive.
Right.
And you got to think, FLW between BFLs, the pro circuit, Toyota series, and all that stuff, they're weighing in, thousands and thousands of bass every single year.
Right.
And I think that their live release percentage is still like 99.99 or something.
See, you just can't beat that.
And that's, that kind of goes down into human error then, or not even really human error, because, if you have a big bass, choke a jig or something like that, you really can't help that. But every single tournament fisherman I know, from the high school series up to local tournaments and things like that, they do everything. They take every measure that they can to make sure them fish are put back alive, and they keep them safe all day long.
Right. All right. Well, there you go, folks. This has been Get Outdoors with Hook Outdoors for the first week of December. We've discussed a little bit here about the fish care, especially for tournament fishing and that sort of thing, and to preserve the fishery here and at other lakes as well. And, like we say, just, stop in and see us and get outdoors with Hook Outdoors.